The following program is rated 14 plus and is not intended for younger audiences. It includes violence, nudity, and mature subject matter. Please know the music in this project is not owned by SC Entertainment. The music belongs to its rightful owners and artists. Viewer discretion is advised. We see firefighters and police vehicles and an ambulance outside of the building Jin killed these men. As Gabby is standing there with Casey and says, "You say this is the fourth murder of the week?" Casey says, "Yeah, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I feel like these have to be connected. Everything's happening at the same time in this town, and a lot of people are dying, seemingly in the same side of town." Gabby says, "Yeah, well, I don't know about this one. I mean, from what the officers are saying, it sounds like an overdose to these men." Casey says, "Yeah, that's what they say. I'm choosing to believe it's something else." Gabby says, "What's your theory?" Casey says, "I don't know, but I have a feeling. I feel it. That there's some kind of tie to all these murders, Gabby. I'm telling you." Gabby looks like she may agree. As Gabby and Casey walk inside, as we see all of the men that Jin killed, as Gabby then says, "Oh my god, you found them all like this?" The blood spatter analyst says, "Affirmative. From what we can tell, they all died from this." Gabby then sees blood pouring out of their eyes as she says, "You think this was a murder?" The analyst says, "I believe so. However, I'm going to run the blood, see what I can get on this. But from my expert opinion, I definitely believe someone did this to these men. And these men died unwillingly. However, I'm not seeing any signs of a struggle or any evidence showing that there was a fight here, so whatever it was either a poisoning of some kind or these men did this to themselves. Either way, it's worth investigating, which I believe either one is possible." Gabby and Casey walk out as he says, "I'm telling you, this is some kind of pattern." Gabby says, "Yeah, maybe you're right. You know, this reminds me of a very famous case back in the day. Back in the 1950s, my mother told me about this. There was a killer leaving a spiral sign all around the city of Nashville, Tennessee. They left evidence and breadcrumbs for the cops to find. It went on for a while until they eventually found them." You'll never believe the motive this person had. An officer walks up to them both and says, "Officer Gabby, Officer Casey, Lieutenant wants you back at the station." We see the woman sitting in the interrogation room as Gabby walks in and says, "Hi there, Lucy. I'm Officer Gabby Simpson. I'm just here to ask you a few questions, okay?" She sits down and says, "The man that had you captured is gone. Okay, nobody can hurt you. But I need you to tell me the reason that you were there in the first place. What did he want?" Lucy looks scared and says, "There's more of them. There's more than that much I can tell you. They brought me here for a reason. The riots you've been seeing, the deaths, the murders you've seen, it all leads to one place." Gabby looks then very intrigued as she realizes Casey might have been right, as she says, "Well, where is it?" We see Jin sitting in a dark room as we hear a woman asks him, "Did they find it?" Jin says, "Yes, as instructed, Don." The woman then says, "Good."
House in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of
1952. Vito says, Okay, listen. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Harold says, I came home last night and I found my dead wife on the floor. Her stomach was cut open, but there was no baby there. And my adoptive sister was gone, the one you adopted. And the door seemed to have been knocked in. Do you think it was Polly? Did he? Vito says, he might have. Listen, I don't know where Alisa went, but I assume they took her, alright? So why don't we just calm down for a minute, okay? Harold says, no! Now how the hell are we gonna cover any of this shit up? I am an officer of the law. And you and I both know 90% of the time that the wife is dead, the husband is the most likely suspect. Vito says, hey look, I'll testify, I'll advocate for the fact that you were with us that night and that your wife was not with you, okay? We can figure this shit out. Harold says, listen to yourself. You're acting like I didn't just lose the two most important people in my life. I have no family, no wife, no father anymore, and now my sister's gone. Vito says, Harold, I'm so sorry. Harold throws a glass at the wall towards him and says, no, don't start acting like you give a shit now. We need answers, and I'm not gonna stop until I get them. Vito says, that's fine, but listen, this has to be handled carefully, okay? We need to get rid of her body first and foremost. Take Johnny and Dario with you. I'll get the rest of this settled. Back with Alisa. We see her waking up. As we see, she's in a cell. She looks out to see the sunrise outside the window. As she looks panicked, as she is right back where she was. We hear Carlos then says, rise and shine. You may not remember me, but we made one hell of a show the other night, and your adoptive father has agreed to let us have you back. Luckily, he was very understanding. And he said he's a lot better off without you. I know, shocked me too, I know. But that's the kind of father you had. Luckily, he's not your blood father. Alisa says, cut the shit. My father would never do that. Carlos says, well, I mean, you're right. Your real father would never do that. He came back for you. So you eventually are going to have to suck it up and realize that this is where you belong. We then see Marty sitting in a cell, as we then see a Pirello walks up to him and says, the Dawn would like to see you. We see Marty is being walked down, as we then see he is being taken by these two men, as they walk out of this dark building and onto a beautiful piece of property by the water, as we see Polly's vacation home in Nashville, as the man says, walk. As he shoves Marty ahead. They walk into a restaurant, as they say. Last booth on the right. He'll be waiting for you. We see Paulie sitting there eating his food as Marty then walks up to him as he says, there he is, man of the hour. Have a seat, Martin. Marty then sits there as he says, listen, I know you're probably going to use me as your slave or some shit like that. Paulie says, no. You must think I'm mad. Using anybody like you as a slave is not a good idea. It's simply a waste of talent. You see, I've seen you in combat. I've seen some of the things you can do, and quite frankly, I want to see what you can do for me. I'm not going to waste this opportunity. Now, you see, I have one very significant problem that I need handled today. The Rascals. The Rascals and Todd screwed me over. And, well, I need them handled. So you're going to go see Carlos and Antonia across the street. They'll explain everything to you. You follow their rules at all times. You understand? Marty looks pissed after everything that's happened and says, and what makes you think that I would do any of this for you? Oh, that's what I was going to say next. Polly says, how's your wife doing? Marty looks mad and says, Don't. Polly says, From what I hear, she doesn't have much time left. It would be unfortunate if her illness caught up to her a lot sooner than expected. Implying he would kill his wife. Marty looks angry and says, I'll do as you ask. Just let her live, please. Just please don't do anything to her. Polly says, I always find it funny when people try to do anything for someone that's already dead. I guess that's true. Love is a funny thing, right? Well, you better order some food first. I want you strong for the journey today. Then, you get to work. We see Todd tied up with chains on his feet. As we see, Tanya walks up to him and says, Do you like role-playing, Todd? He says, Fuck you. She says, Good. Now your family, I'll have you know, is safe and sound. But your people, well, they're gonna have to go next. Don's orders. I'm sorry, but you just didn't make the cut. And quite frankly, he doesn't trust you people anymore, so the rascals have to be eliminated. But we have a special helper today. We hear a knock at the door as she says, Oh, that's probably him. Come on in. We see Marty walks in as he says, I was sent here by Don Perello. Tanya says, Oh yes, just in time. Come on in. Yes, you're coming with us today. We're going to make a short use of those rascals today. Carlos walks in and says, There he is. Marty looks pissed as he just stares him down as he says, I trusted you, motherfucker. You were one of us. Christ, I was the one that vouched for you. Carlos says, Well, that was a mistake. You vouched for me, and you put in a lot of good word for me, and we worked closer together than anybody else. Crazy how things change. How honorable of you. I wish I could say the same about your Don. Unfortunately, he doesn't follow the same type of rules that ours does. Marty says, So what? Are we gonna roll in there, kill all of these rascals just like that? Carlos says, Oh yes, we go in. Meanwhile, Tanya here will be taking care of something very important. Let's just say you're gonna want to keep an eye out on the news. Let's go, Marty. You ride with me. Back with Harold, we see a montage of time going by as we see Johnny and Dario cleaning up the blood all over the floor at Harold's home. As we then see them putting Caroline's body in a bag and taking her with them. Johnny and Dario are leaving as Harold says, Thanks for everything. Johnny says, It's no problem, big guy. Say, your sister, do you have any idea where she might have gone to? Harold says, I haven't got a clue. Johnny says, Alright, well, we'll search around, but if we hear anything, you'll be the first man we call, alright? Harold says, Yeah. As he nods as they leave, Harold then just looks in his home as he realizes he's all alone and has nothing left. He sits down as he cries, as he then looks at himself in the mirror with nothing but a look of anger and rage on his face. Later on, we see a few vehicles pulling up to the massive factory, as we see Carlos and some of the Perellos and Marty getting out, as Carlos gives Marty a few guns, as he says, Kinda like old times, isn't it, Marty? Marty says, Yeah, I've always got paired up with you, because I always felt like I had no choice. I guess that's the one thing that still hasn't changed, huh? Carlos laughs and says, Alright, well, just be ready. He looks out with binoculars as we see 4 men at the entrance, as he says, Want to take 2, I take 2? One of the Perellos says, I got eyes on a few here, boss. Carlos says, No, I want Marty here to take those ones. The guy says, Yes, sir. Carlos says, Hey, look, you can hate me forever for what I did, but do you understand that Vito was not doing things like a Mafia Don was supposed to do? He bent every rule in the book. He did everything wrong, and yet you still support him? You still fall in line behind someone like that? So you need to understand something. In a normal situation, Paulie should have had him killed, or worse. Things could go a hell of a lot worse if you don't cooperate with us. But we're still trying the easy way first. And because it was a personal matter to Paulie, and because he still saved his daughter, he hasn't escalated things yet. He hasn't gone to the bigwigs and explained all this shit. Because it's a personal matter. But at the snap of a finger, or if you don't do what we ask, your Don's dead. Marty looks angry and says, "Fine. Let's fucking do this." Out of nowhere, two of the rascals get shot in the head by a silenced pistol. As we see, Carlos kills them. As we see, two other guys, as one of them says, "You think Todd's coming back?" The other guy says, "I don't know how much longer we can keep waiting." The other guy says, "Well, if he's not back by tonight, I'll send out a team to go after them, as long as he didn't piss Paulie off. He took a risk making that deal. I knew it. I said that to him. But he didn't listen. He made the deal anyway. I still don't understand why." The other guy says, "Yeah, he's a stubborn bastard, ain't he?" The guy says, "Yep." They then hear a vehicle approaching, as we then see Marty riding in a car as he plows these men down with an Uzi, as he shoots both of them down and does a drive-by, as Carlos hears this and runs up to him and says, "Hey, we were supposed to be quiet." Marty rolls down the window and says, "You know I hate stealth. Now we doing this or not, motherfucker? Get in." Carlos then loads his gun as they all push in. Several rascals come flooding out of the building, but then several Pirellos start lighting them up from up top as the groups are firing back and forth at each other. Carlos and Marty then drive in as they run some of them over. As Carlos then laughs, as blood goes all over the windshield as he says, "You see, we could still be friends." As Marty looks annoyed. Back with Harold. We see Harold walking into the police station, as he's just back to work like nothing even happened. He walks up to one of the officers and says, "What do we got?" The man says, "Young man named Frederick Dawson. He's a prime suspect in the Spiral Killer case. Lieutenant wants us to look into this." Harold says, "Mind if I have a talk to him?" The officer says, "Knock yourself out." Harold walks in as he says, "Alright, let's see here. Frederick Dawson, 2 kids, a wife, and works for an insurance company. Now, when were you last seen at your job? Because it says here you've missed a week or so, and your wife has told me that you go on for long walks every night on your own. Now, it sounds like you've been thrown into prison for a hell of a lot worse than this. We've also seen you close to the crime scene a few times now. What is your involvement in this?" He tells him, "Listen, I'm innocent here, man. I recognize that I was in jail for assault. Shit, man, I know I have my demons, man, but I'm better now. And all I really want is to go home to my family because I am not the killer you're looking for. I'm not. What are you keeping me for here, man? Because I'm black?" Harold is about to say something as we hear an officer walks in and says, "Officer Harold, we're gonna need you." We see a bunch of police cars pulling up to a crime scene as Harold runs out as he looks shocked and horrified as he sees something. We see a burned dead body of a woman as Harold sees this and falls to his knees. As we then see Tanya watching this from the bar across the street, as she says, "Rest in peace, Miss Casher." As she takes a sip of her drink, as she just watches the crime scene happen from far. we see Vito standing by the window looking out at the city with a drink in his hand as the man knocks on his door and says, "Don, you may want to see this," as he then runs to the TV and turns it on as we hear a woman then saying, "Just coming in now, a convicted murderer, once known Alisa Casher, was found dead today at a crime scene on Berkeley Road. Police are saying that she's been identified, however, her body was found burnt and almost unrecognizable. Police are looking into it now. We are not sure what the cause of death is at the moment, but reports are saying that she has been identified as the spiral killer that has murdered over 22 civilians over the past month. More on this later." We see Vito looks pissed as he thinks his daughter is dead. He then says, "Get my car." The man says, "What are we doing, sir?" Vito says, "That's an order, damn it! Get my vehicle now!" Vito storms out as he's running out to his car as he then hears, "Mr. Casher?" He turns around as he sees Sam, Marty's wife, as she says, "Do you have time to talk?" Vito says, No, listen, I'll be back soon, okay? Just not." She interrupts him and says, "Well, I'm not really sure what to do here. Marty didn't come home for the last 2 nights, and I don't know where he is. He always tells me when he's running late or when he's out somewhere, and he hasn't answered my calls, and the last place he told me he was going was working with you that night. So you need to tell me where my husband is." Vito gets out of the car really mad as he says, "Hey, listen, I understand your concern, okay? But I have a lot of problems to deal with right now. I assure you, your husband will be back by tomorrow, okay? That's a promise I can keep, okay? He's involved in a very dangerous operation right now. All right, that's all I can go into. But your husband will be brought back to you safe and sound by tomorrow, okay? We done?" She says, "Okay." Vito says, "Don't worry. He'll be back, I promise." He quickly gets in his car as he then drives off in a panic. Back with Marty and the Pirellos, we see a bunch of dead bodies outside of the factory as they all run up to Carlos and Marty as they get out of the car, and Carlos says, "All right, we push in, shoot to kill. We probably don't have much time. Let's go." They push in as we then see the doors open as the Pirellos run in and start lighting up the rest inside as they all fire back and forth at each other, as we then see Carlos gets shot in the arm as Marty then covers for him. Carlos then says, I'm fine. You go. Your life depends on it, Martin. Remember that." As we see Marty is filled with rage as he loads 2 guns and runs in, as he then starts popping and shooting multiple rascals, as we then see both groups are firing at each other. Marty then shoots another one as he then runs up the stairs. As he is above, as he then starts shooting down at some of these men, as they fire up towards him, as he then backs up for cover. As we then see a man knocks him down with a crowbar, as Marty goes down, as the man says, "The Pirellos, we made a deal. We worked it all out. Why? What did you do to Todd? Answer me!" Marty then gets up and puts his hand out and says, I'm not with them. My name is Marty. I'm a victim of the Pirellos. I can't promise your deal went through. All right. Shit went really bad. Really fucking bad. But your boss was taken by the Pirellos because he teamed up with a different group of people. The people I come from. The Cashers. Your boss did a deal with us before, but it all went wrong. But I can assure you, Todd, he's alive. But I'm afraid it's not going to stay that way if I don't deliver a message on my behalf. The guy says, "What?" Marty then stabs him in the throat as blood gushes out as he looks guilty, as he then says, "I'm sorry, Sam." As he picks up the man's gun, reloads it, and keeps moving. Back with Harold, we see Harold sitting in the waiting room as a police officer walks up to him and says, "We've identified the body. is Alisa Casher. Harold starts breaking down as the officer says, I'm so sorry, Officer Casher. You get out of here. And hey, good work. Because if you didn't investigate like you did, if you didn't look into this thing, we would have never found the killer. I know it's not what we expected, but we're all giving you time to process this, so go home. Harold looks broken as he then walks out. Back with Johnny and Dario, we see them burning Caroline's body in the same furnace that they buried Harold's father in, as Johnny says. It's a damn shame. I don't know how many more of these we're gonna have to do. Dario says, yeah, something tells me this isn't gonna be the last. As they walk out, as they head back to the casino, as they arrive back, as they walk in, and Johnny sees the man, as Johnny says, where's the Don? The man looks freaked out and says, he's gone. Did you see the news? Johnny says, no, what the hell's going on? Dario asks, what's going on, Silo? Silo says, Alisa's been killed. Dario says, wait, what? Silo says, she was found today. I don't know what this all means. I don't know if it's the Pirellos or something else, but someone definitely killed her. Dario says, all right, we got to get ready, just in case. Johnny says, yeah, we'll get the rascals as backup, all right? We may need them. Dario says, all right, I'll get the car. Stella then walks out as she loads her gun and says, need some help? Johnny says, yeah, we could actually. Come on. Back with Alisa, we see her in her cell as Polly walks in, as he says, there's my precious angel. Alisa looks scared of him and says, I never thought you'd come back for me. Polly says, well, of course, sweetheart. I thought you died until I found out what you did recently, and I knew I had to get you back. Carlos was my way in, I'll have you know. I knew what I had to do. Alisa says, do you realize what happened? Do you realize what I had to do? Polly says, whatever you did, it doesn't matter. I'm glad you're alive. And to this town, you're officially dead. Atonia made real sure of it. And tomorrow, we're going home. Alisa looks shocked and says, what the fuck did she do? Dad, please don't do this to me. I have a life here. I have people here I care about. I have a family. Polly interrupts and says, I'm your family. And I came back for you. Those aren't your people. Those aren't your family. Those are just fucking sheep. Sheep that betrayed the mafia. Sheep that did not do things the correct way. And the only reason I haven't had your fake father killed is because he did save you that night. And I do respect that. That is the only reason I have not ordered a hit out on him by now. You give me the word, you say the word, and I could have your fake father and your fake brother killed. Alisa says, No, I'll go. Please, just leave them be. Please. He looks at her and says, oh, you better get some sleep. We leave tomorrow. He walks out as Alisa looks worried and is trying to figure something out. Currently, back at the Rascals factory, we see Carlos shooting more of the Rascals as we see his shoulder is bleeding very badly. Marty then sees the last two men running out of the factory as Marty says, I got him! He runs after them as we see him running after these last two stragglers as he shoots at them. But then we see Johnny, Dario, and Stella riding in with their vehicle as Stella then mows them down as Dario then opens the door and says, "Get in!" Marty looks worried and says, No, I can't." Dario says, "Marty, Alisa's been killed." Marty looks shocked and says, "What?" Johnny says, "Hey, we going or what? They're coming after us. Come on, make a decision here." Marty looks worried because he knows the risks. But then, he then says, "Yeah, okay, yeah, let's go. He gets in as they speed out of there, as they drive away and get out. Back with Vito. He drives into Harold's place in a hurry as he knocks on the door. "Harold, open up!" Harold opens it looking very depressed and says, "Why are you here?" Vito says, She's gone. Polly, he must have done something. I don't know what the fuck he did." Harold says, "I know. I was there. But I just don't understand. Why the hell would a mob boss kill his own daughter after fighting to get her back?" Vito says, "I don't know, but we gotta go somewhere. I want you to come with me, alright?" Harold says, "Why?" Vito says, "Because I already lost one child today, and I'm not about to lose another one. Now come on." As they drive off together, as Harold asks, "Where are we going?" Vito says, "To get the help that we need against these fucking Pirellos." Back with Atonia. We see her back at home, as she is now rocking in a chair, holding Harold and Caroline's baby, as she says, "Rock-a-bye baby in the treetop. We gotta find a name for you. Shit. I don't know what to call this little guy yet." She hears some ruckus going downstairs, as she then puts the kid down and walks downstairs. Todd is trying to speak, as Atonia says, "Oh, Toddy boy. What is it now?" Todd says, "What did you do to my men?" Atonia says, "Oh, well, you overheard us talking earlier. Bummer. Well, my husband is ending that little problem right now. Meanwhile, I took care of another little problem today. I framed a woman as a murderer. Well, she was already a murderer, but you get the point. So that she can spend more time with her father, her real father again. Crazy how the world works sometimes, huh?" Todd says, "You're not gonna get away with this for long, lady." Atonia says, "That's awfully ballsy for a man whose family is in the other room. Now, I reckon my husband is gonna be home in a little while, but however, there's not much to do around here. Might as well make the most of it. Now, my husband instructed me to do this while he handled the rascals. Get 2 jobs done at once. I handle the ones in here." Todd looks scared, not knowing what she means, as she brings out his wife, as he looks terrified, as Todd says, No, don't, please. I'll do anything you want, okay? I'll do anything you want. Whatever you need, I'll get it for you. Do you want money? How much you want? Okay, I can get you anything you need. Guns? You low on guns? I can get you anything." Atonia says, "Filthy rich, dumbass, and fully loaded. I'm sorry, Todd, but there's just no scenario where any rascals live on. You shouldn't have worked with Don Vito. The Cashers are poison." "So what does that make you?" She slits his wife's throat as she bleeds out all over the floor, as all of the blood goes all over Todd and Atonia, as Atonia then stands there, as he looks devastated, as Atonia then stands there covered in her blood, as she says, "Well, what's a mother without her cubs?" Todd looks scared as Atonia then goes into the cell with a knife, as we then hear her stab both of his children, as Todd has to listen to this from the other room, as he yells out as Atonia kills his entire family brutally. Later on, we see some of Polly's men guarding his compound, as we see a boat pulling up with men riding in to pick them up. We see Carlos covered in blood as we then see the Pirellos run out. As we see Marty and the others driving away quickly as he looks angry and says, "Go! We run them off! Come on!" They get into their vehicles and drive after Marty and the others. Back with Alisa, we see her in the cell. She then starts hyperventilating as she falls to the floor. The guard comes in, running in and says, "Oh Jesus, what the hell is wrong with you?" Alisa says, I can't catch my breath. Please, I need help. The man opens the cell as he says, "My God, lady, you know how bad this looks? I could lose my position over this shit. The Don sees you like this, I'm dead." Out of nowhere, we then see her pull out a knife as she slits the man's throat as he bleeds all over the cell floor, all over the place. She then puts the knife back in her boot where she pulled it out of. As we can see, she planned this as she stands over his dead body as she says, "Thanks, Dad." She grabs the keys as she lets herself out.
Make the world go away.
She then runs out into an open field on the property as she sees the sun going down. As she sees Polly's place up ahead, as she turns the other way, as she then sees her shot. As we see Vito and Harold driving the roads, as Harold says, "I still can't believe she's dead." Vito says, "Yeah, something tells me she isn't." Harold says, "What? How do you know?" Vito says, "Because a father's instinct is always right. And I may not be her father by blood, but I goddamn well know my daughter's alive." Alisa then sees from far. 5 of Polly's men see her from a distance as they yell from far, "On the ground, now!" But Alisa then runs for her life as she then starts running away into the woods from far to get away from this place and runs for her life.
And make the world go away. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I'll make it up day by day. Just say you love me like you used to, and make the world go away. Make the world go away and get it off my shoulders. Say the things you used to say.